So punctuality is so important. Proving my point. Don't be late. And again, you're paying a ridiculous amount of money for this degree. Make every minute of it count. I mean that. Every minute should count for something. All right. Any other questions before we get started? And actually, your attendance is better. My morning class, everyone went spring break early. I had like 60 people. I was kind of annoyed. Here, 40 absent. Is that right? No, that can't be right. Yeah, of course you're signing it. But I shouldn't have to remind you. My goodness. Again, better. All right. So let's go over the midterm. I'll go one question at a time. I sent you all the memo and a model answer from a year's past. Model answer is not perfect. Never is. Never given 100 paper ever. But it's a good place to start. The memo, I think, is more helpful. I had 58 this morning, so a little bit better, but still 20 absent. Wow, that's a lot. All right, spring break starts on Monday, by the way. It's not today. All right, so in terms of the exam, this midterm is basically half a final, right? This midterm is 90 minutes. Your final is 3 hours. This midterm had 1 question with 5 subparts. The final will be 2 questions with a total of 10 subparts. It's basically half of everything, so it's half of a final exam. The word count is strictly enforced. 1,000 words total for the entire exam. If you went over, I stopped reading. If you're at 500 words for question number 1 and then you ran out of space for question number 5, guess what? I didn't read question 5. You get a 0. Okay. Your exam was open book. I think you'll find your notes did not help you. If you were looking at your notes, you were doing the wrong thing, right? It's timing matters. Now, I noticed a lot of you finished early. I can tell by when you emailed me the file, which is fine. Maybe you did this exam in advance. That's good. I'm not trying to help you, right? If you went ahead and did all my old exams and knew them by heart and wrote answers to them, then you did all the right things. Congratulations. But for a lot of you, you didn't finish. And I can tell because towards the end, your answers get shorter. There are a lot more typos, right? I can see when you're running out of time. Okay. So let's walk through the exam. All right, the exam begins with the instructions. I know this sounds stupid, but read the damn instructions because it will give you important information you may not otherwise know. So you're a law clerk for the Chief Justice of the Hogwarts Supreme Court. If you ever saw the movies, the Harry Potter movies, or read the books, you're writing a memo of 1,000 words involving 3 people, Potter, Ron, and Hermione. I tell you this applies to all the American common law rules. That's a very important fact. There are some topics this semester with a modern rule, and a common law rule varies. For example, with conveying possibility of a verdict, you do that inter vivos. At common law, you could not. In the modern rule, you can. So think very carefully about what jurisdiction, because you can actually leave points on the table that way. I also tell you that the natural law principles are persuasive. That's just this question is on hunting animals. All right. That's all we've really done with natural law. So keep that in mind. All right. So let's start with question number 1. And I usually do exam questions like this where I have a block of text and a question, or I put the question at the end. I do it both ways, depending on whatever I'm feeling like. So just be ready for both approaches. I would encourage you very strongly to read the entire exam through before you start writing. I was actually in the room just sort of watching some people work. As a lot of people start typing right away, I'm thinking, oh, it's not. Maybe it works for you, but very often there might be information on the exam that's buried at the bottom that like helps you think of the answer to number 1. It's like, oh, that's useful, right? I will sometimes put facts out of sequence where you really should read the entire exam first. But read it straight through. Then start your engines, or start typing, as it were. So I'll start reading. It says, in the land of Hogwarts, Potter owns Blackacre. Make sure you put that in your scratch paper. Ron owns Whiteacre. Excuse me. Hermione owns Greenacre. Okay. These 3 properties border each other. Potter. My voice is somewhat going. At least if I use it, it's a little bit easier for today. How's this sound okay? Hear me right? Okay. Don't lose my voice today. I did it once before, it sucked. Potter, Ron, and Hermione are contestants in a game known as Quidditch. If you saw the movie, I don't really care. It doesn't really matter, but it's a helpful way to create a question. I tell you this is an ancient sport. Why am I telling you this fact? We did cases on custom and traditions of hunters. Every fact here is very intentional. I don't put stuff in there just randomly, right? According to the rules of this ancient sport, contestants fly in a magical broomstick to catch the snitch. I tell you this is a rare flying creature. So this is what we call a fey naturae, a wild animal. And there are different rules for hunting wild animals you need to know. The question says, the first contestant to capture the snitch wins the match. Keep this in mind. There's actually a judgment here by the referees over who wins. And we discuss cases like Gen v. Rich and otherwise, where we say we defer to the traditions and the practices of the hunters, of the people in this profession. That is very important. A lot of you actually miss that entirely. Again, if you see a sentence like, wait, why is that sentence there, right? Take another look and think about why that sentence is there. You're probably not seeing why it's there. There's a reason. And you think, oh, this sentence is just, wasting my time. No, I don't do that. The exam's real short. Look, it's a page and a quarter. Every sentence is there quite deliberately. All right. So now we get to the animal question with the hunt. There's always a hunt question in my exams. I always include when they're fun to write, they're fun to answer. I would create sort of like a chronology in your notes of what happens and what happens here, what happens there. And at each juncture, I'd sort of keep in mind who has various competing claims to the wild animal. Okay, so it says it begins on a public park. Why is that relevant? Because in Pearson v. Post, the hunt happened on a public park, and no one owns the public park. If someone owns a land, we have the rationally solely doctrine kicks in, but that's not relevant on a public park. So the question begins. First, the snitch flies from the park onto Blackacre. Okay, who owns Blackacre? Was it Potter? Yeah, Potter owns Blackacre. And I tell you that Ron, the fastest flyer, takes a quick lead. Why does it matter that he's the fastest flyer? I'm talking about the labor theory. Right? Who's putting more effort into capturing the animal? And I tell you, his hands are within an inch of grabbing the snitch. This is like Pearson, where the hunter came very close but lost at the last moment. And say, as Ron's about to grab it, Potter strikes the snitch with his broomstick. Now, he doesn't put his hands upon it. He uses his broomstick. Is that like a tool, like a net or some weapon? Is physical touching necessary to have a rule of capture? Or is it enough to touch it with something, one of your instruments? I tell you, the snitch bounces off Potter's broomstick and gets tangled in Hermione's hair. Does the hair function like a net or a trap? Did she put any effort into capturing that snitch? Or is it completely by chance because it fell into her hair? When a bird poops in your hand, ever happened to anyone? Happened to me. You ever you got pooped on? Never? Yeah, it happened to my hand once. So, it just happens, right? And there it is. Like, wow, where the hell did that come from? But it sort of just fell into her hair. It scares the crap out of you, doesn't it, when it happens? Like, where'd this come from? Anyway, stuff you learn properly, right? But it gets tangled in her hair. All right, so the question continues. A few seconds later, so the hair, thing's only in your hair for a couple seconds. The snitch breaks free because it's a fugitive resource. It moves on its own. The snitch flies from Blackacre onto Whiteacre. Okay, that's owned by Ron. Once it's on Whiteacre, the snitch starts to dig. So we talk about surface rights and subsurface rights. And digs deep into the ground. Okay? Ron starts digging straight down to try and get it. but the snitch changes direction. It starts going horizontal. We may call it slant drilling. And it goes into Greenacre. That's a trespass onto Hermione's property. Right? So with Rashing solely, it might belong to Ron for a moment, but then the Rashing solely belongs to Hermione, at least briefly. Then Ron causes a trespass. He goes onto Hermione's property to capture it. And finally, Ron catches it on Hermione's land as a trespasser. I tell you that the referees of this game award the snitch, to Potter. I don't tell you why, but the only basis Potter would have is that his broomstick touched it first. He was the first to touch the animal, even though he didn't capture it cleanly. I then tell you that Potter and Ron and Hermione sue. That's a good question. Should the courts even be involved in this, or should they just defer to the judgment of the sportsmen, right? The hunters of this game. All right. So then I say discuss excuse me. Discuss the strongest claims for three people: Potter, Ron, and Hermione with respect to the snitch. You need to discuss all three. A lot of students didn't. They only discussed a couple of them, or maybe one or two of them. You got to do all three. And it's the strongest claims. I want the strength, not the pros and cons. I can ask that also what the strongest claims. All right. All right. So what was I looking for here? The wild animal topic involves a lot of different doctrines, a lot of cases. You have labor theory, you have capture theory, you have fairness, you have efficiency, you have Pearson v. Post, Gen v. Ridge, Keeble versus Hickengill, you have Papa versus Hayashi, right? You have a lot of different resources and authorities you can bring in. What I'm looking for is for you to say the facts of this case are like X or different than X, right? This is like Pearson. That's like Popov with the fugitive resource, right? You know, maybe say the thing getting stuck in the hair of Hermione was like the baseball hitting Popov's glove, but she didn't quite cleanly get it. It bounced away. That's not sufficient. You can cite majority opinions. You can cite dissents, but you need to cite authorities. Okay. Students, unfortunately, did what they weren't supposed to do. They cited cases about Johnson versus McIntosh. That's about discovering lost property and conquering people. It's not relevant. Students cited the lost chattel cases like Hannah versus Peel and Armory and Yule's Briggs is in the ground. Those cases were not relevant. I warned you, you did it anyway. Right? Those cases are about chattel, not fugitive resources. Right? What are relevant were the wild animal cases and the oil and gas cases, because in very many regards, the center was digging like it was mineral. Okay. Some students actually did catch on to the fact that we should defer to the judgment of the referees. I think that's actually a very fair point. Why should the judges of this court second guess this professional sports league? That's this very elaborate game. All right. We talk about slant drilling. Talk about the customs in Gen v. Rich for the Whalers and customs here in this game. Just a sort of stylistic note. When you're writing your answer and ask for the strengths of three different things, just give me 3 paragraphs. I don't want bullets. No, give me full sentence, but just break it up into 3. Makes it easier for me to read. The worst things are this huge block of text, and I can't differentiate one argument to the next. So if you want 3 different elements of an answer, give me 3 lines. It won't increase your word count at all. It makes it easier. Yes?
If you have like a lot to say about one person, could you break it into paragraphs instead of making it?
That's fine. I don't care. The more space is better. Space is always better.
I want to ask you about alternatives.
I'll get there in a minute. Does everyone understand what I have given you so far?
Do you want us to number?
Please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't care how many words it takes up. Just number it. The reason why is I don't know where one answer begins, one ends. It's not always obvious to me. Please number.
Exclude the question, or we can include the question.
What do you mean include the question?
Like,
Yep.
For me personally, I put the question above it, so I knew.
You the word question, or you type the question out?
I copied and pasted.
Don't do that. No, don't do that.
Okay.
It's a waste of space. You don't have the words to do it. Just put question 1, or even number 1, or just 1. But something. Tell me what the question is. I had one semester a student who was so smart. To save words, he omitted the question numbers. It was one continuous block of text. I had no idea where one question began. It was so painful to grade. Don't do that. It was so stupid. People think they're saving words and they're really hurting themselves. If you say, here, let me try to save words by doing this, you're going to lose points, right? Because if you're thinking about trying to save words, you haven't structured your answer well. There are smart ways of doing it that are not omitting question numbers and things.
If we ran out of words and then we like go back and start deleting words like additionally,
You shouldn't do that.
Is that a decent strategy? Just
No. The better strategy is not to run out of words in the first place. You're wasting time. You should budget 200 words per question. And if you don't do that, you'll run out. If you budget 200 words per question, you won't run over. Right? Because look, if you make the answer harder to read, you might actually end up losing points. Right? Or my least favorite thing is people start deleting space between words. They'll put like 5 words together. I think they're tricking me. They'll just alternate capitalization, so it just say it's one long string with a single word. It's ridiculous. People can get an A with 800 words. You can do it. You don't need to use a full 1,000. It reflects a lack of planning to actually do that. So don't do that. I can't stop you, of course. I won't know if you deleted words, but you're wasting time. All right, Andres, what's your question?
Well, it was a particular about the Potter's claim.
Sure.
I brought up Keeble.
Okay.
When
Keeble?
when Ron was trying to snitch on Potter's claim,
Good.
I thought that it was an obstruction of Potter's constructive possession.
Ration solely?
Right.
Correct.
Of the animal there.
Good
I
point.
see that in model answer.
Model answer is not perfect.
Okay.
Can't fit everything.
So I just want to make sure that is that not 100% wrong? Do you think you
You're
can see
correct.
that? Okay.
Yes, Alexa.
If I mistakenly instead of Russian solely use Fairy Nature, would you give any points?
Well, fairy nature is a wild animal. I'm not sure you use the wrong Latin phrase.
Yeah, I use the wrong Latin phrase.
No, that doesn't work. Not really, no. No, I mean, that in particular, it's a completely different concept.
With Hermione's claim, brought in South Stafford water. Sure.
That's not correct.
It's not,
No. Why is it not correct?
because that was dealing with tangible
Chattel. Not future. Those cases are relevant.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mentioned the class at least 20 times. I warned you I'm not picking on Tony because so much of you did this, but I warned you so many times and you guys did it anyway. Which is why I sort of like, what am I doing up here? Right. But I can only say it so many times and you're still going to do it. The reason why is, something buried in the ground. Of course, right? Your brain just wants to go there and it's not. It's like possibly reversion. It's not a thing. Yes, Sophia.
So if you mention like Charmin and stuff, like, can you say that Hermione could cite that, but she wouldn't be correct, or like?
I wouldn't tell me what not to cite. The question is the strongest argument. And that's, again, answer the question. But the question whether it's the strongest arguments, don't tell me what you wouldn't cite, what weaker argument.
I mentioned the majority and the dissent, and then I added public policy, like that was associated with.
That's good. Of which case? Pearson?
Yeah.
That's only dissent we have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Alexa.
I have a follow-up to my question. If I just use the wrong Latin word, but continue to go on to talk about the proper word, would you still-
I mean, I'd have to see it, but if you're giving me the wrong thing, that probably you can lose some points.
But I mean, are you like dead after that?
I can't. I mean, it's a specific question. I have to look at it. Yeah, you have to get stuff right. The terminology does matter. It does. What other questions?
I think that Ron's thing was supported by the Tompkins majority and Livingston dissent. Is that fine, even though they're technically like two different things? I said he could claim both of those.
Tell me why. I think you might be on the right track.
Because he put in the labor, he was gas required, he came within inches of it.
And he ultimately got it.
Yeah, and he
Yeah, that's fair. Fair point. Yeah, both majority dissent. Good job.
With regard to labor, I felt like they were all equally putting in the same amount of labor.
See, the reason I love these questions is every question can go both ways.
Okay.
There's no right answer. I mean that sincerely. There's not like one right. That's what I'm asking. I'm not asking who should win. I've done that before. Not this question. This question is strongest argument for each. I think you can make a credible argument for each of the three. Each of the three has a chance to win this case. Any other questions on number one? All All right. So here's what I want to do. I put up a rubric in the class notes. You can see up here as well. And what I'd like you each to do, and I'll turn the polling on in a minute, is to enter what you think your score is from 1. And I'll walk through the options. Every question is graded on a scale of 1 to 10. And I think this exercise will help you illustrate how I grade. And actually, it's not easy. Grading is a really hard thing. You're saying, am I dead in the water? It's a really hard judgment. I have to read the entire paper before I even make that sort of judgment. But here's how I would approach, how I would approach this question. I was grading it for 80 of you. 10. There are very few 10s. I don't give 10s very often. 10 just blows me away, right? So most people have a ceiling of 9, which is fine. 9s are good. Straight 9s mean you get A+. If you get less than 5, you're in trouble. That's basically a failing paper or somewhere in the C to D range. If you put 5 points here, this is what some of you did. It was you relied on the cases about lost or mislaid property discovery doctrine. That you're gonna lose some points on. I've warned you more times than I can even count. Don't cite those cases. If you're at least identifying rule of capture but not really discussing any of the cases or authorities, you might get 6 points. If you bring maybe one of the cases, maybe Pearson, you get maybe to 7 points. Get a couple cases, maybe get to the 8 points. And Armin mentions before, if you want 9, bring in a couple authorities, maybe 3 authorities, and also policy discussion, right? About fairness, about certainty, or why the rule is the way it is. That's what gets you to an 8 or a 9. Yes.
So when you are doing this point analysis, when you're talking about the cases, we're talking about like Hoopendorf's theory.
That's an authority, yeah.
That
Yeah.
counts as well.
Yeah, that's an authority. Right. I mean, that usually comes in from Pearson, but yeah, you can count that as an authority. But I want 3 cases. I mean, that's the Pufendorf and Grosch stuff's all good, but really it's the sort of the cases that I'm wanting you to talk about here. Well, I mean, those people are from the cases. That's where it came from. Like the rule of capture is, right? It's from Pearson, right? What I want to see is if you can explain why the fact pattern here is similar or different in these various cases. Okay, and grading is not a science. It's one of the hardest things we have to do as professors. I don't like doing it, and I don't know if I'm even good at it. I think I am better than I used to be, but it's very hard. And if you're evaluating yourself, I would err on the side of lower. Don't puff yourself. I think my more class puffed himself a little bit too much. They gave us a little too much credit. The grades are way too high. But just be honest, knowing that if you're giving yourself a more honest score, I can help you better. If you're like artificially inflating yourself, I can't identify who needs the help. And then just be honest with yourself. Be true to yourself. It's always there. Yes, Andres.
So do you want us to identify the rule in the case or strict analysis where we bring up a small fact that was in the case, such as post?
Look, here's what I'll explain it. If you're just copying a rule statement from your notes, you're not getting much credit, right? Because you can do that in advance. I want you to see, for example, you say Potter's claim is similar to the Hunter and Pearson because of X, Y, and Z, or it's different because of Y, the A, B, C, D, and F, and therefore the case will come out differently, right? That's what I want to see. Just copying a rule statement is not going to help you.
Okay, I just want to make sure I don't have to put like in post, this particular.
No, you're not reciting the facts of cases. Again, the rule of thumb is if you're copying something that you prepared in advance, it's not going to give you credit. I want to see every sentence relate to the fact pattern. Yes.
When you discuss a case, do you have to, I guess, act as if the reader doesn't know what happened in the case?
But again, I'm not asking you to recite the facts. Assume people know what the case is because say why this case is similar or different to that case. So there's really no reason to recite facts of a case. That's not a good use of your time.
For example, we brought up Hayashi and Post and majority Tompkins and stuff, but then we inadvertently applied on Hermione's thing the shadow argument.
Right. So I think you would get maybe you would have to take a point or 2 off of that. Yeah. I mean, it's not a science, right? These are rough scores just to get you a ballpark of where you are. But if you do the wrong thing, you probably lose some points. All right. So let's try this. Everyone, please go to your clickers and just put in your score for question number 1. Be honest. This helps me. It helps you more than anyone else. We'll see how we rank. By the way, the scores this morning curved almost perfectly natural. I didn't have to do anything. To prove to you curves are natural. You guys are in a curve. Not supposed to do a damn thing. People think, oh, the curve, Professor screwing. No, you curve. It's not me. There's nothing I can do to change how you distribute naturally. You all distribute naturally. In any room, there's going to be natural distribution. Not right now. Let me do this. I'll call you. All right. Everyone put the scores in? That was mean. I'm sorry. But I want to do this first. I'll come back to you. All right. Everyone got their scores in? There are 67 of you here and only 62 responses. If someone's not playing along, I'm going to stop it. If you don't do it, it's your thing. Okay. So let's see the results. Okay. Oh, I forgot to tell you. No decimals. Whole numbers only. Someone 8.5. That's not an option. Whole numbers. Look at that. Look at that curve. Okay, all those nines are not accurate. I love you nines, but no. Anyway, but it's a curve, right? Curves. That's about right. Most people are in the 7 range. All right. Yeah, and no 8.5s, please. I forgot that someone did it earlier. I forgot to mention. All right, Armand, what's your question?
I put capture theory as opposed to rule of capture.
That's the same thing.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay. Any other questions? If I was that pedant, if I was that strict in my grading, you guys would all fail. My goodness. I mean, I have to. No, I mean, like I have a range of flexibility. I know what you mean usually. If I can't figure it out, then I have to start taking points. If I've read enough proper exams over the years, I know most of what you're trying to get at. Yes.
I have a question about like your grading style. Do you grade on the higher side of the curve?
I grade this way. This is how I grade.
Well, I mean, on the curve.
No. The curve is you. You form the curve. There's no curve. The class distributes naturally. I don't have to do anything. I just look at your papers and I score them, and that's how it fits. All right. Other questions? Okay, do number 2. All right, so number 2. All right, close this. Number 2. All right, so now we have 3 conveyances. Each of these future interest questions are based on questions we did in class. Maybe a little bit different, but they're based. So there really shouldn't be any surprises here. Question number 1, question 2 says, Potter transfers Blackacre to Ron for his life. Hermione provides Ron with a proper funeral, comma, to Hermione and her heirs. Okay, so again, this is similar to the question. These 18, if my notes are correct. I think I might not be right, but I think that's where it is. But there's a bit of a twist. So it starts off with a life estate for Ron. That's the easy part. And we think about this question, right? What happens when Ron dies? Blackacre's got to go somewhere. And it goes back, at least temporarily, to Potter. What do we call the future interest after Ron's life estate that goes back to the grantor Potter? That's reversion. It's reversion. Okay, and that's exactly what I want from you in an answer, right? Don't just give me the interest. You have to explain why. In any future interest, you should explain to each step why it's a remainder, why it's a vest remainder, why it's this, why it's that. I need to know your thinking. So this one, you would say it's a future interest after Ron's life estate terminates, goes back to the grantor Potter. That's a black letter. That's reversion, right there. But this is not reversion in fee simple absolute. It can't be. It can be cut short. How? If Hermione gives a funeral to Ron a year later. So we have cutting short the interest of the reversionary holder. That's called a shift. I'm sorry, it's called a springing executory interest. Okay. Why is it springing? It's cutting short the interest of the grantor. So we would say that the reversion, I have it on the screen here. Where is it? Ron is a present interest in life estate. Potter as a future interest in reversion. Subject to Hermione springing executory interest. Why is it springing? because a third party is cutting short the interest of the grantor. In this case, it's Potter. And then accordingly, Hermione has a future interest in springing executory interest in fee simple. Don't forget that last part. It's not always going to be in fee simple. All right. Again, if you just list these three things, you're not getting yourself full credit. You have to explain why. And explaining each juncture why each element is the way it is. All right. All right, Andres?
I just wanted to know, we know that Hermione's gonna have springing executory interest in this, so it's gonna be the same reasoning for why.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I would just say in both ways it's springing because the interest of the grantor in this case was Potter's being divested, being cut short.
Okay, well, I just wanna make sure that you're saving word count. and not-
Again, if you were at word count, you're gonna sacrifice points. Don't try to save words because if you are, you're probably writing too much anyway.
That's what I was gonna say, something similar, like in the interest of time, if you just lay it out as if you, like the way that you lay it out in class. Because according to your rubric, it only has explained why for the nines, do you lose points on the?
No,
other
you
ones?
really need to explain why at every juncture. I would not. And we said the interest of time again. With practice, you'll get better, but you shouldn't be rushing. And writing 1 or 2 sentences is not going to push you over the limit. Yes.
Did you want us to say, so Potter is the one who originally had the fee simple? Did you want us to say that it starts off with Potter originally has fee simple?
You can say that. I mean, it's not.
Define it?
It's usually assumed, but you can say that. There's nothing wrong with it.
So with Hermione, I got it, but I added executory limitation.
That's the same thing.
Okay.
Executory interest limitation, the same thing. Monet?
Subject to divestment?
Not enough. It's subject to an executory interest. That's not precise enough. Understand why?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you prefer listing all three and then explanation down low?
I would do an explanation each step. Yeah. I would say, Potter has a life estate. Ron has a life estate because the conveyance him for life. She has a future interest reversion because of X, Y, and Z. I would spell it out. I mean, the entire answer should be maybe 6 or 7 sentences. You're nowhere near the word limit. And if you're doing this smart, it'll take you 5 or 10 minutes to write the answer. It will not be very hard. Right? Future interest is either you see it or you don't. Right? No matter how much time and effort, you're going to spin your wheels. If you see it, you see. If you don't, you don't. Yes.
I just have a question, because I think are you the poll actor for this one as well?
I'm sorry?
The poll that you did for the question.
I'm going to do that in a moment.
How many points would you take off if you just have it laid out the way that you laid out it in class versus the paragraph form?
If you got all the right answers, you just laid them out correctly, that might be maybe 6, 7 points without any explanation.
And then you did like -1.
Look, Alex, I don't think this is just about one person. So I mean, it's it's going to be sort of looking at the exam carefully. So if you want, we can chat later.
So the difference between a 9 and a 10, like the explanation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, usually if you get to the right answer, it doesn't take more work to actually spell out why. Right? The hard part is actually getting the right answer. All right. Can I turn the poll on? See what we guys did here? Okay. All right, see what we got here. Okay. All right, another 15 seconds. All right, thanks about everybody. Let's see what we got. Okay. All right, it's not bad. A lot of you think you're 9s. That's good. All right. Yeah, I mean, the future interest questions, if you nail it, you do really well in it. And if you don't, you do really poorly. It's one of those questions where either you get a lot of points or few points. That's usually how they shake out.
So if you were to get it wrong and to have all your definitions correct, you still get at least some.
Yeah, you get 5 or 6 points. Yeah. I mean, look again, but if you're below 5 points, you're in trouble. But if you have below 5 points on one, the rest of them are fine. You can be okay. But if you're getting straight 5s, if you're getting, I mean, I'll show you the scoring later. If you're getting straight 7 and 8s, you're in good range for an A, B plus. I mean, you're in the range. If you're getting straight 6s, you're in the range for B minus, and straight 5s, you're probably in trouble. But again, in trouble in the midterm, we can work on it. Okay, but that's good. I mean, I don't believe all these 9s, but I'll take your word for it. It's okay. When I took driver's ed many years ago, there was a question that, people were surveyed saying, are you an above average driver? And like 80% of people said, yes, I'm above average, which is not possible because only half can be above average. So people inflate themselves unnecessarily. They have very poor assessments how they perform, which is why we're not good judges ourselves. No man can judge his own cause, as they say. All right, let's do number 3, please. Ron transfers Whiteacre to Potter and his heirs. But if Potter does not graduate from Hogwarts College, enter Hermione and her heirs. Again, discuss the interest for all 3 of them: Potter, Ron, and Hermione. Not everyone did all 3. So let's talk about this one for a few minutes. Okay. Ron transfers Whiteacre to Potter and his heirs. Okay, that's when he's some kind of fee simple. Right? But we know if Potter fails to graduate from college, which would be during his lifetime, Hermione's cutting short Potter's interest. Okay, what do we call a future interest by a third party that cuts short a present interest? That's exactly. And shifting because it's the transferee. It's a shifting executory interest. So we say Potter has a fee simple, subject to Hermione shifting executory interest. And then Hermione has a future interest, excuse me, in shifting executory interest in fee. And don't forget Ron. Ron has no interest. He's like, oh, Josh, why don't you list that? Because the question asked about it. All right, a lot of it, you just didn't mention Ron because he has nothing. But you have to at least tell me it's nothing, because in some questions, Ron will have something. So simply saying Ron is nothing is where I need. Yes, Andre?
Sure, I'm using the correct terminology. I put H has a future interest in shifting executory limitation.
Who just asked that?
Oh, someone else, sorry.
Limitation interest is the same thing.
Okay.
Same thing. I can say that so many times. Yeah.
Same word count, if we were to define shifting executory in the previous paragraph, can we just?
Nope. Nope. The reason why is I don't grade the exam straight through. I forgot to mention this in my morning class. I grade each question separately. And the reason why is to avoid what's called the anchoring effect. So let's say you did really well in question number 1. I will presume naturally you do well in question number 2. So I kill that. I actually grade each question independently. And I also, one other thing to safe check it, I start at a different point in the alphabet for each question. So question 1, I'll start with the A's. Question 2, I'll start maybe in the C's. Question 3, the D's, and so on. So that way everyone gets a shot being the first one I read. So I think it's unfair if who's A here? I don't know who A is, but whoever A is, right? First in the alphabet, right? You're not listing me first, right? Because I think that it both helps and hurts. I've tried to think about this and I don't have a good answer. Is it good to be first or bad to be first? See, it cuts both ways. Because sometimes it's good to be first because I'm not really sure I'm looking for yet, so I kind of give you a boost. But other times, wow, this is not what I was looking for, and I give you a bounce down. So basically, everyone gets the benefit of being first and the cost of being last, right? So everyone, and if there are about 80 of you, I basically divide the alphabet up. So basically, everyone is within a few shots first. I put a lot of thought into how I sequence it. So don't assume if you write to me in question 2 that I remember it, because I won't. It's all blind graded, so I have no idea who wrote what, and I will not remember. I hate to say, for reasons I mentioned in question number 2, which forced me to break my grading scheme and go back and look at questions, which I don't like doing. Yeah, I even close the PDF and I scroll down. I don't make any notes in the document. I have a separate spreadsheet, so I have no idea who you are. Sometimes it's obvious where someone does something really weird with the formatting, so I know, I remember this paper, right? But I try very hard not to remember it. It's hard. Blind grading is actually a blessing. You should be very thankful for blind grading because it just makes my life easier to work with anyone. You're all anonymous.
In my explanation for why it was a shifting interest, I then just said why it wasn't springing. Is that just a waste of time?
I mean, it's got to be one or the other. What's the question I ask you? To identify the present and future interest. I'm not asking what's not. So I think just answer the question. That's a good rule of thumb. Answer the question. Answer the question. All right. Questions on number. What's this number 3? Yes, Money.
So I understand why it's executory limitations. If you mention contingent remainder, that's not correct because
That is not correct, my friend. And that's the backup option that's wrong, right? So if you look at question number 3, that would be like number 5 out of 10. All right, so you lose a bunch of points. Again, with the future interest questions, if you nail it, you get lots of points. And if you miss it, you lose lots of points. So they're hit or miss. The reason why it's not a contingent remainder, and I'll go back to the question, is that excuse me, it doesn't follow naturally after termination, right? There's no natural termination, so there's no remainder at all. It doesn't fit in this question. All right, let's do a poll. See how you guys did number 3. Oh, yes, go ahead, Trey.
So, on a similar note to what Monet just said, on the previous question, if I started off by saying that, I don't want to go back, but if I started off by saying that it could have been a contingent remainder, where your model answer was talking about the present interest being vested.
But that's wrong, though. It's not a contingent remainder.
Well, it was subject to the condition that he provided.
Yeah, that's not a condition precedent. Those conditions subsequent. So
Even though it was in the same clause.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
Look at it. Yeah, no, there's not a contingent remainder in this question. It's a vested remainder. I mean, it's reversion, right? And there's no remainder at all, right? There's reversion, so that's not right. All right, let's do a poll. Number 3, please. Just scale of 1 to 10. Oh, did I show you the rubric? Oh, sorry, I didn't go over it. It's very similar to the one before. If you get all the interest right, you explain why, you're probably at a 9 or a 10, a 9 or an 8. If you got some of them right, maybe you get 7 or. Okay. Again, the grading is not perfect. I have to read and answer several. I mean, when I grade a question, you're gonna think I'm nuts, but I do this in every time. Guys, we're in class now. Thank you. When I grade a question, I actually do this in my head. I pretend that you're sitting right in front of me. I don't know who you are, but a student sitting in front of me. And when I give a number, 7, 8, 9, 10, I think to myself, could I explain this to a student? Could I actually explain why I'm doing this grade? I pretend you're sitting in front of me having a conversation, anticipate your arguments, and then I put the grade into the spreadsheet. Of course, I don't remember all these things and know they fly out of my head, but at least for that moment, I say, could I justify this grade? And if I say no, then I'm not sure. I'll read it again, second time. All right, I got just about everyone here. Let's see what we got. Look at that curve, it's beautiful, right? Natural. Yep, that's about what I expect. Yeah, so most people are in the 7 range, but some 8, 5s and 6s and lowers. I had two in my other class that got a 1. They were actually honest. I don't know who it was. I didn't check yet, but I appreciate the candor. All right, any questions on 3? I'll see number 4. Okay. Yeah, the future interest questions either hit or miss, right? Either get it or you don't, and that's where the points sort of add up if you don't get these. Hermione transfers Greenacre to Potter for life, comma, then to Ron's children. Ooh, okay. But if Ron fails to graduate from college, to Potter's heirs, and they tell you that Ron has 1 child. Now, keep in mind, this is very important. It says Potter's heirs, not Potter and his heirs, Potter's heirs. A person doesn't have heirs till they die, okay? That works here because Potter's life estate's over. But I've asked questions before where I discuss the heirs of a living person. That doesn't work, right? You can't have heirs of a living person. And that makes the question very ugly. So just be on the lookout when it says to someone's heir, they have to be dead first. If they're not dead, it doesn't work. They have to start thinking what the hell to do. Okay? So it says Potter for life. Okay, life estate, that's easy. comma, then to Ron's children. So there's a future interest following a natural termination. There's no condition precedent. Condition comes afterwards. There's no condition precedent. Is Ron's children ascertained? I tell you, there's one living child. Therefore, it's a vested remainder. But because it's a class gift, it's a vested remainder that's subject to open because more children can be born into the class. What happens if Ron's child dies? Doesn't matter. Ron's children will inherit. Ron's heirs will inherit that vested remainder. Okay, but we're not done yet. We have a vested remainder subject to open. But that remainder can be cut short. How? If Ron fails to graduate from college. In that case, Potter's heirs will cut short the interest of the children of Ron. All right. So we actually have here, I'll put it on the screen because it's a little bit of a mouthful. Potter has a life estate. Ron's children have the vested remainder in fee simple, subject to open. We're not done yet. Potter's heirs have the future interest in shifting executory interest in fee simple. Why is it shifting? You're cutting short the interest of the transferee. So the full thing, it's a mouthful. Ron's children have a vested remainder in fee simple, subject to open, subject to Potter's heirs shifting executory interest. You guys get all those right? It's a mouthful, but you have to get each element of those to get full credit. And what about Hermione? Don't forget poor Hermione. She's in the question. If you don't, you lose a point. That's not guaranteed, right? The fact is, the way there could have been reversion, right? It's possible, not in this question, but it's possible reversion. It's always when you discuss the present future interest for Potter, Ron's children, Hermione, Potter's heirs, hit all four of them. If you skip one, you lose points to the table. Okay. Question number 4, please. What do you have? Yes, Joel.
I didn't think about it during the exam, but is this one that could be interpreted like 2 ways or no?
I think some people did suggest that Hermione had a reversion. I don't think that's the best answer, right? But the reason why they said that was if Ron has no children, Hermione would have reversion. I don't think that's right because the vested remainder would go to the children of Ron. I'm sorry, the children of Ron's child, I should say. So I think some people put that. I don't think that's right. I mean, you get something, but I think this is the best answer when I put it on the screen. Maybe someone disagrees with me. I don't know. Yes, Maya.
Is it incorrect to say Ron's one child has the
No.
interest? I should have said children.
Well, look at the question again. The question matters. It says Ron's children, plural. I'm not asking about Ron's child. If I was, I would give him a name, which I didn't even do. I didn't name the guy. So again, I hate to keep repeating myself. Answer the question, right? Look what the exam's short. It's a page and a quarter, right? You can read in 5 minutes, but every word there is placed quite deliberately to get something. And if you fail to do what I asked, then you're probably not going to get your full credit. Question number 4. Is that a hand?
No.
Okay. Question number 4. Nothing? All right, let's do the poll. See how you guys did in this one. This one's a little bit trickier, I think. No, this is 4. I didn't put. Sorry. But you have to get all. It's a little bit different. This one you have to identify all 4 interests to get it right. I hate you. So, this thing's so obnoxious. No, it gives me not you. No, that was me. No, my screen. No, I had a big error message on my screen. I'm so sorry. No, the second said that a big error message, it kicked me off. Are you back in? Oh, you bet. Okay, try it again. Oh, no. This is not going to work. Oh, so obnoxious. Not you. That was mean. I'm sorry. No, you're a very good student. You're a very good student. I'm not. This is not working. I'm sorry. I can't ask a question. Then just write it down on your paper. We'll get to it later. It's destroying my class. Wait a minute. See, this is why I said I hate you. I was talking to this error screen on my thing. All right. Well, I can't help that beyond my power. I've had a lot of recently. iClicker has been very reliable. It was pretty good for a couple of years. Now it's in person and nothing works. Okay. All right. Anything else, number 4? But know what you got in your own score. That way you can add yourself for later. No. Okay. All right. Let's go on to number 5. Number 5 is what I call the policy question, which is perhaps not the best phrase, but that's the best I can think of. It's not asking the what of the law. It's asking the why of the law. Why is the law the way it is? Why should the rule be this? Why is the rule that, etc.? But there's still a need to ground your answer in authority, in cases, in discussions we had from the readings, in the natural law philosophers, right? You have to have some authority to back up your position, right? You can't just sort of put out, I think this is good because blah, 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 right? I say it's mean, sounds mean, but I don't care what you think, right? I adore all of you, but I really don't care what you think. I want to know what the law is, right? Maybe the professors care what you think. I don't, right? I want to know if you know what the law is, and that's how I'm going to grade you. So I'm asking your opinion against write a bunch of op-eds and write opinion pieces, right? That's not what I'm here for. So here you have to sort of ground it. The question says, with respect to present and future interests, it's actually it's working. So is the other one working? Is it working now? Damn it. Ugh, not you. This is the stupid error message. Okay, forget it. I think it's going to be you have to know for the class. With respect to present and future interests, American property law is premised in large measure on English feudal law. The feudalism was abolished 2 centuries ago, or more than 2 centuries ago. American courts still abide by these rules. Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. wrote, and this is, I think, on the very first page of your chapters, at the very beginning, so this is from your reading, I wasn't making this up. It is revolting to have no better reason for a rule than it was laid down at the time of Henry IV, which is a long time ago. So the question is this: discuss both. The word both is there. A lot of you didn't see that word. Both. Why Holmes was right and wrong. If you did only one, then you're getting partial credit. I want to see both. So what authorities can you bring in here? There's a lot of different things you can talk about here. We talked about, abolition of primogeniture, right? The firstborn male inherits. Talk about the abolition of the fee tail, right? Which kind of mentioned, but it's in the reading, right? It doesn't exist anymore because it sort of constrains the use of property. We can talk about the reason why it might be good to have these old rules, because there's certainty, right? If you look at Pearson v. Post, the following rules that were hundreds of years old from the Romans and even earlier, and how people have certainty in the law. In Gen v. Rich, tradition and custom are very important and very disruptive to sort of abandon all those traditions. We have livery of season, right, where people still to this day have closing and they give the key as a symbol of like dropping the soil and the cloth and the dirt in the hand, right? There's lots of different directions you can take this. It's very actually hard for me to write a rubric for the question 5. I find as a general matter, these are the lowest scoring of all the exam because first, people are running out of time, and second, they don't tell the right. So these are usually the lowest scoring of the entire lot. All right, is this going to work for me? It's not going to. I don't think it's going to work for my class today. All right, unfortunately, I will not have this. Maybe I'll figure some other way of doing it later. All right, questions on 5. What did you put that's on your minds? Yes, Lexi.
If you cited what came out of the book, but you didn't cite any of those theories specifically,
Like what? Give me an example.
like saying that it evolved out of the feudal system, out of how, like the peasants' children needed a way to figure out.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's a good discussion.
Authority.
Yeah, I think so.
So I mentioned the progenitor and the season and stuff like that, but I went for Johnson v. McIntosh. Is
That's
that
fair.
applicable? Okay.
Well, why Johnson? What was your rationale?
So I said that basically if we change the law now, it's already kind of too late, the same way that Justice Marshall said it. And if we do,
Oh, that's interesting.
we
Yeah.
lose like the faith in government.
Yeah, that's a fair point. When you have radical changes in law, it actually disrupts people. That's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, that's something that's creative. I didn't think of it in that regard, but you can take cases that you've read and sort of twist them in ways that maybe I didn't even think of. That's good. Yes, Tony.
Henry II, the disease of novel disease.
I don't know what that is. Yeah. I mean, that's. But what's the relevance? I mean, why are you mentioning that?
Giving people that were wrongfully brought to land a speedy right to recovery of addictions go, wrongful addictions go.
So how does it answer the question?
One of the strengths is how the courts would kind of apply what he was implementing with that, with dispossessed tenants, to speedy.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's entirely responsive to the question, but it's in the ballpark.
That's what
Okay. Yes.
So I said that he was wrong because Shia and Taurus developed from feudalism, and then that created the principle of free alienation, which is present today. Is
Good.
that-
Yeah, that's creative. Yeah. I mean, look, there's a lot of directions you can take this question. I every year I'm like, wow, that's good. I didn't think of that. Maybe these sort of policy questions. What else? Okay, let's see. iClick, you're gonna let me do my class or not? No. Do you see it? No. No, it's not gonna let me do my class. All right, unfortunately. All right, so I can do that, but you'll have to sign to attendance again. All right, so let's try that. I'm gonna end this class, and just you have to sign into attendance one more time. I'm sorry.
It's already kicked us out.
I know. I closed it. Let's try this again. Let's try question number 4 again. Yeah, Kevin, I was thinking that, and I didn't want to do it, but I can try that. All right, let's try question number 4 again. See if this works for me. And make sure you sign to attendance again, because we have two options. Are you seeing it? Oh, thank you, Kevin. You saved my class. Thank you. All right. So just put your question for number 4, please.
Can you scroll down a little bit more?
Oh, this is 4.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going back because we didn't get 4 to record. Yeah. Oh. Thank you. All right, I think but all of you, all right, now we'll do question 5, and I'll go over the rubric for 5. Okay. All right. Again, be honest with yourself. What I'm trying to get at here is the more authorities you can bring in and discuss, the more solid your answer is going to be. Okay. Give yourself an honest answer. All right. Okay. I guess about all of you. Another 5 more seconds. All right. I'll stop it there. Let's see the results for the first one. This was actually question 3. Look at that curve. I tell you, you asked me about the curve. You guys are natural. I don't have to do anything. It's a natural curve. There's nothing I have to do. That's about what I expect. And this one's a bit all over the place. Yeah. Some people are honest. If you didn't finish, you did get a 0. That is true. Yeah. Oh, someone gives up a 10. Damn, you're feeling good about yourself. You're feeling yourself. I like it. I like it. I won't check who. It doesn't matter to me, right? But yeah. Right. Now what I'd like you to do is total your scores up. Add them all together, please. And perfect score is 50. A non-perfect score is 0. I don't know what you call it. But it should be somewhere between 25 and 50. That's probably the range. No, I've never given 100. Never happened before. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe you're my prodigy class and you're all a bunch of geniuses. That hasn't happened yet. And if you could enter in, please, your score for your total, that would be very helpful. And I will show you the curve in a minute. Okay. There will be math in the exam, as this you have to add together 5 numbers. Use your calculator. I won't look. You have a calculator on your phone. I know. I see everyone's your calculator app open. All right, another few seconds. Okay. All right, this is working. Good, good, good. All right, I'll stop it here. All right, so here is roughly, and this is not perfect, but how grades map onto reality. Okay, that's about right. Okay, so if it scrolls very too quickly. I'm sorry about that. Let me do it with my other way. Okay. So if you're over a 40, you're in the A range. Usually the A plus is around a 35. Someone here got a 43 in the morning class. So someone gave us a 45. So guys, you get a little bit more modest here, right? Usually the A plus is around a 44, 45, 43. That's usually the A plus range. Anything above a 40 is usually an A. Just below a 40 is usually an A minus. B plus is usually about 36, 37, a bunch of you. B's is usually the biggest range, 33 to 35. B minus is 31 to 32. They cluster a bit at 32. Okay. C plus is really below a 30. And then so on and so forth. All right. And again, this is your grading. So it's not perfect, but this is a decent estimation of where you are. What I'm going to do, and again, I'm going to finish class in a few minutes. It'll be a little bit early. I'm going to give preference people basically got B minus or lower. That's usually, I think, what my cutoff's going to be. I don't know exactly how. I'll be in the office now if you want to come talk to me now. You're happy to come chat, delay your spring break a few more minutes. But if not, we'll have some time next week on Zoom. And I think what I'll do is I'll have, that's what I'm thinking of, right? If you're in this grade range, you get to the queue in this hour. If you're in this grade range, you can join the queue at this hour. The reason why is I don't want all of you A plus people coming at once because you don't need it, right? You can come later today. I love you, but you don't need the help. I'll be pat in the back. Good job. Next in the queue. But I'm going to let people who are lower in the curve come first, and that makes sure that they get the help that they need. I think that's fair. I don't know. I know you all are really smart and want your 2 minutes in the sunshine, but I have 90, 85 of you here, and I want to make sure I'm fair to each one of you. Yes.
Do you have rubrics available for the past?
No. In fact, I just did this last night. I thought of it last night. I was like, how do I do this? Like, how do I actually make this meaningful for you? I was like, oh, let me do it. That's why I didn't email it to you. I made this last night. I was like, let me do this. So it's actually a good idea. Did this work well? Do you think this was meaningful? Yes. I'll do it again for next year. So you're my guinea pigs. My trial. I was just at the rodeo, like cute little animals, right? But you're my guinea pigs. But I tried it. All right. Other questions? All right. I'll be at my office if you want to come by. I won't stay forever because traffic eventually, but we'll get done today. We'll get done. Thank you.